Long road trip, you're coming home. Basically, you're trying to get a home field advantage, some good old home cooking, and they're facing teams now that they can kind of get themselves righted in the right direction.
Royals were hoping to contend this year in the American League Central. It's still possible, but on the topic of needing to get it going, they find themselves 10 games back already of first-place Minnesota. But over the next 10 games, they have a big opportunity in front of them.
This is going to be a great opportunity for them, Ryan, because the teams that are playing over the next 10 days have a combined winning percentage of .355. So that should give the Royals ample motivation to get back in the race and get things going in the right direction for the ball club.
Last game of the road trip, Billy Butler was involved in a bizarre play on defense, and unfortunately for him, that overshadowed what he did on the trip at the plate.
Well, he had a great job offensively in that number 3 spot, Ryan. Unfortunately for him, he didn't have a lot of men on base when he was getting the hits, but he hit at a .357 clip, 15 for 42, and from a number 3 hitter, you'll take that anytime.
Brian Bannister starts tonight. Had a very interesting road trip. He pitched both his best start of the year and his worst start of the year on the trip. And we'll talk more about him when we come back. By Kia Motors. To learn more, visit kia.com. And by Kellogg's, the best to you each morning. Royals are home from their longest road trip of the year, 11 games, and now they'll be home for 18 of the next 26 games. And Brian Bannister is thrilled to be back at Kauffman Stadium. He's done his best work this year at home with a 2.19 ERA in Kansas City. And with more on Banny, here's the Kia pitching report.
But the Royals need to get off to a good start here at home. Bannister's 4-1 record versus the Indians should be great motivation, but he will have to be careful with Grady Sizemore and Travis Hafner.
And both Sizemore and Hafner are off to slow starts so far for the Indians. Here's the M&I Bank batting order. Sizemore hitting just .213. He's still without a home run. Travis Hafner is at .244. And there's a familiar name at the number 8 position at second base, former Royal Mark Rutzelanek. So Brian Bannister trying to bounce back after a tough start. Same for Jake Westbrook. He went just 3 2/3 innings in his last start. Bannister and Westbrook, the Royals and the Indians. And the first pitch is coming up next. Time Warner Cable, where HD is free with digital cable. And out in right field on the Pepsi porch is Joel Goldberg.
Yes, good to be home, and I'm sure Brian Bannister feels that way as well, guys, because that last start in Chicago did not go well for him. He called it one of the strangest nights of his professional career. Now, we know that Banny doesn't use the seams all that often with his cutter and his changeup, unlike most pitchers, and for whatever reason, he couldn't get a grip on the ball that night. He said it felt like a cue ball. So after the third inning, he went up to the clubhouse, and remember, he was late coming out that inning, and he only ended up throwing one warm-up pitch. He was looking for a solution for his hands. They had switched the TV in the clubhouse to the Chicago Blackhawks playoff game. He said he's never been late for an inning in 12 years of Division I and pro ball, but he came out, saw the umpire staring at him and saying, "Hurry up." Said he was worried that he was going to be fined or suspended, and said it felt like what happens when you sleep through your alarm clock and you have no idea whether you're 1 minute late, 5 minutes late, or 10 minutes late. So he went out there, did his thing, didn't last too much longer, guys.
Well, that's good insight, Frank, because we were wondering why he was so late coming out, and then we wondered why he only took the one warm-up toss, and then he walked the next hitter on 4 pitches.
Well, that's true. Regardless of whether you're going to be fined or not, I think you have to protect your arm. You still got to take a good complement of warm-up pitches so you can be able to pitch to that hitter. By just taking one pitch, he kind of put himself at risk there, maybe injured himself.
So here he goes against the Indians. And Banny last year faced the Indians 3 times and gave up just 6 runs in 17 innings. A strike on Asdrubal Cabrera. And over his career against the Cleveland Indians, Brian Bannister is 4-1. One and one on Asdrubal Cabrera, who was back in the lineup on Sunday for the Indians. He had missed 3 games in a row with a left quad injury, so his left thigh muscle. Count as 1 ball, 2 strikes. Indians are having a bad time on offense. They have the second fewest runs in the American League. Only Seattle has scored fewer, and the Mariners just got done firing their hitting coach. The Indians aren't hitting many home runs, just 15 so far, and they have played 29 games. Two balls, 2 strikes.
Well, you'd like to see young players get a chance to play at this level, Ryan, and you also like to see them produce at this level. It's kind of hard to develop at this level and bring young players in and hope that things work out for them. They got to get out there and they got to get it done and let the normal process take care of itself.
Last year, the Indians tied the Royals for 4th place in the American League Central, but they did that with the youngest team in the major leagues. They fired their manager last year, Eric Wedge, so Manny Acta in his first season, and the Indians were hoping for some improvement as those young players got that full season under their belts.
And a little different situation for Cleveland with Grady Sizemore, Chu, Hafner, Branyan, Peralta, Grzelcyk. These are all guys that have played a while, so you don't expect their offense to be as sluggish as it is.
4 straight foul balls from Asdrubal Cabrera. Rain was originally in the forecast, and apparently it all happened yesterday because it's beautiful tonight. 65 degrees, sunshine, and we started right on time. Time and temp brought to you by the parking spot at KCI. So Bannister wins the 9-pitch battle and strikes out Asdrubal Cabrera, who is now 0 for his last 10. Royals defensively tonight, Pasetnik, Meyer, and DeJesus in the outfield with Callaspo and Betancourt on the left side. Mike Aviles at second base with Billy Butler and Jason Kendall behind the plate. It seems very odd this late in the year. It's May the 11th, and Grady Sizemore still does not have a home run. He'll take a 1-out single to right field, batting just .213 going into that at bat, and the Indians have 1 on with 1 out.
It really makes you wonder how much that elbow injury last year really took away from his ability to swing the bat. He just rolled over on this ball and happened to get it right in the right spot between Aviles and Billy Butler. But he like just squaring the ball. We're so used to seeing him hit line drives all over the place and hit the ball out of the ballpark.
Sizemore has 2 stolen bases. He's been thrown out once. And the Indians as a team only have 14 stolen bases. And now Shin-Soo Choo. That ball's hit well to center field, but Meyer is there, still fading back, and from the shade into the waning sunlight, takes care of Shin-Soo Choo, and there are 2 down. So the Indians are in the same boat as the Royals, just trying to get things going. They just completed a disappointing homestand. Royals finishing up a tough road trip. The Indians were at home for 8 games. They only won 2. And they have lost 9 of their last 12. So Travis Hafner with 2 outs. Sizemore takes off, and the throw is offline and on 1 bounce.
Well, Kendall had no chance on this double play. Sizemore got a great jump, Ryan, and there's a good pitch to handle, but when Kendall came up throwing, it was way off to the shortstop side. Just didn't have any good release time. When catchers get in trouble, when they don't have a chance to close that shoulder and then step toward the target, when they try to be too quick and leave themselves open, the ball tends to run one way or the other.
No balls, 2 strikes on Hafner.
And this is what Banny really needs to do tonight, Ryan. Just keep the ball down, keep it moving away from those left-handed hitters, and if they do hit the ball, they'll roll over on it and get that ground ball to second base.
1-2 on Hafner, who's been bothered by a right shoulder injury the past 2 years. It really hurt him in 2008, and then he had surgery in the offseason, and then spent some time last year on the disabled list, still bothered by the shoulder. The Indians hope that he is back now. He has 3 home runs so far this year, and he is down on strikes. The Indians scoreless against Bannister, and Banny strikes out 2. A couple of strikeouts along the way, and now the Royals batting order presented by M&I Bank. So to Jesus, Pasednik, Butler, Guillen, Callaspo, Aviles at second base, Kendall, Meyer, and Betancourt. Right-hander Jake Westbrook. Here's the Kia scouting report.
Last win at KC in 04 September, Ryan. Led the Major League pitch in ground into double plays, and that is one of those things that tells you whether or not his sinker is working. And if it's on, it could be a tough day for the Royals.
A sinker specialist. And when he has been healthy, he's always been among the league leaders in ground balls. But he has really fought the injury bug lately. A couple of years ago, he had both Tommy John surgery on his right elbow, and he had right hip surgery. He's 3-0 against David Jesus. So he only pitched in 5 games for the Indians in 08 and 09, missing all of last year. And David down to first on 4 pitches. Walks have been a problem for Westbrook. That's his 18th already, and 31 in the 3rd innings. And now Scott Pasednik. Pasednik hitting just .227 on the road trip, but he drove in 6 runs, and he hit a couple of home runs. He hit one at Chicago against his former team, and then in that wild game on Thursday when the Royals came back from 8-0, he hit a game-tying 3-run home run to tie the game at 9. 1-1.
You can see Scotty on that attempted bunt on the first pitch. The one thing that hurt him on the road trip, Ryan, is he had opportunities to bunt, but just the pitch selection to bunt on was kind of off. You know, he wanted to drag the ball, but you're trying to bunt a tailing fastball away and trying to turn it back, and you pump the ball to the pitcher. So just mainly getting the right pitch to do what he wanted to do.
Dragging it to first, and Branyan over to the line to get him. So Pasednik will get a sacrifice. That's his 7th of the year. He leads the league in that department. And he moves to Jesus up to second base.
So he gets a pitch right here. Now this is really a tough one here when you got the first baseman holding runner on and you got the second baseman double play depth. So you got to really feel comfortable that you can get this ball in a good spot. to get that runner down to second base, and Scotty was able to get that done.
And now Billy Butler. On one hand, Billy had a very good road trip where he hit 357, but because there weren't a whole lot of men on base in front of him, he drove in only 5 runs in the 11 games. One ball, one strike, says home plate umpire Bill Welke.
So Billy had to work through a lot of things on that last road trip, Ryan. In Tampa Bay, he had to work through fastballs up and in, hard-breaking balls away, and then go to Chicago. They slowed the ball down on him and got him out front, rolled over. And then in Texas, he had to go back up the middle and went back to fundamentals and had a lot of success.
Well, with what he did last year, with 51 doubles, the league is going to spend a lot of time trying to figure out how to get him out.
And that's what they did, but they haven't been consistent with it. You know, every team is coming up with something a little bit different. And if you stay with it long enough, then he makes the adjustment and he gets the base hits.
And another pitcher-friendly call from Bill Welke, and the count is 1-2. Billy not very happy with the strike zone. Last 2 pitches, in his mind, it appears, were down and away. And it doesn't appear that Kevin Seitzer is very happy with the strike zone.
Well, those hitting coaches, they pull for those hitters to get good pitches. That's all they preach, get a good pitch to hit. And when they think the umpire's playing them in a corner, then that's when the hitting coaches get a little upset at the umpires.
Fouled it off of his foot. We'll check the Indians defensively. Austin Kearns, coming over from the Washington Nationals, is in left field with Sizemore and Chu. Same left side as last year, but Mark Rudzelanek, who did not play in the big leagues last year, is at second base with Russell Branyan. And Lou Marson is the battery mate of Jake Westbrook. Billy fills out the count after falling behind 1 ball, 2 strikes. There's Mark Rudzelanek, who was here 2006 through 2008 and won a Gold Glove in 2006. The only Gold Glove of his major league career. Pulled to short, so DeJesus skips back to the bag, and Billy Butler is the second out. Jose Guillen now makes his way to the plate, and we'll look at tonight's You Call It, presented by Sprint. Whose bat breaks out tonight against Jake Westbrook? David DeJesus batted just 189 on the trip. Scott Pasednik 227. Jose Guillen hit just 158. Or Yuniesky Betancourt, who was at 167. Royals would like to see more than one of those 4 break out, but you make the selection at 432 432. Enter keyword Royals followed by a space and then A, B, C, or D. Guillen is facing Westbrook for the first time, and Westbrook drops down a little bit. And the count is 1-1. So Jose just 6 out of 38. He comes in tonight 0 for his last 9 and drove in just 3 runs on the trip. One of those games he wasn't in the starting lineup, got a night off in Texas. 1-2.
Yeah, Westbrook's done a real good job staying out there on that corner, Ryan. The change in speed, slider, change up out there. And the Royals hitters are definitely going to have to be more patient with him and try to get him up and then try to take him the other way back through the middle to be successful instead of those ground balls.
Two balls, 2 strikes. David walked on 4 pitches. Went down to second on the sac bunt from Scott Pasednik. hit hard, and Branyan is right there. So tough hitting luck, and the Royals lead to Jesus at second base. Kauffman Stadium. Royals and Indians meeting for the first time, and Brian Bannister, so far so good after going only 3 innings and giving up 7 runs on Wednesday at Chicago, getting a couple of strikeouts in the top of the first inning. And now he gets Austin Kearns, Russell Branyan, and Johnny Peralta. Austin Kearns has played very well. He was a disappointment for the Nationals. Originally from the Cincinnati Reds organization, a former first-round pick. Batted just .195 last year for the Nationals and .217 the year before that, but he is reunited with Manny Acta, who was Washington's manager and then fired at mid-season last year. And a guy who seems like he's been around for a long time, and in some ways he has, but he's only 29 years old. He'll be 30 later this month.
Well, in my day, that would be prime years. They were 28 to 32. But it's nice to be playing for a manager that you're familiar with and kind of know what you bring to the table. He's hitting 17 or 20 games, and he's been on base. He's reached safely 19 out of 20 games. So it shows you how well he's been doing.
And showing a pretty good eye. Brian Bannister put that ball exactly where he wanted it, but Kearns wouldn't go for it. So the leadoff man on, Bannister's first walk. And we'll take another look at that last pitch.
Well, that's more of a chase pitch for Banny right there. If you get the eye level down there and you see that ball, if it starts above the knees, it looks good to a lot of hitters. They will chase that pitch, and they'll get a ground balls with that same pitch right there. Kearns just happened to be a hot hitter and seeing the ball well.
And now ball one on Russell Branyan. Branyan started the year on the disabled list with a back injury. And he had some back issues last year that put him on the DL. He's only playing in his 13th game. And Russell Branyan, big time power. He hasn't homered yet. And big strikeouts, and he has 15 strikeouts in his first 35 at-bats.
Well, he puts a lot of torque in his swing and a lot of torque on his lower back. It's not a. I can see why he'd eventually develop back trouble with the way he swings the bat.
And that's deep into right center field. Meyer all the way to the track, and Branyan gets his first home run of the year. So a leadoff walk, and now a 2-run home run. And the Indians lead 2-0.
Well, we talked about the big-time power that he does have. The question is whether or not he's going to make enough contact for it to come about. But you can see that he had a lot of reach on this ball. He covered the outside part of the plate by at least a ball and a half. And he's just stayed out over it, and that's that power, the right center fielder we saw right there.
Now with power guys, we talk so often you got to keep the ball down, and the ball's up, better chance of elevating it and hitting it for power. But Branyan's one of those guys who has a real uppercut swing. He might be someone that you want to pitch up to, right?
You want to pitch up, and you want to get the ball preferably to the outer half where that pitch was, but it was just into his swing. It wasn't high enough.
1-1 to Johnny Peralta. Peralta is 0 for his last 11. And batting at just .207 so far. And hits it right on the nose, but right at Yuniesky Betancourt. And now Mark Grudzielanek to the plate, and once again, here's Joel.
Well, guys, when he finished up Mark Grudzielanek after 08 with the Royals, he had a couple of offers late around winter of 08, turned them down, and then found that there weren't any more offers. So he ended up staying at home and hanging out with his wife and 2 young sons, and said he really was starting to enjoy that, taking them to school, to Little League games. His oldest son, Bryce, who's now 7, taking him to jiu-jitsu practices. He said these are things he'd never done in his whole life, playing a little golf as well, took some trips. But he also got his body right, made sure everything was healed, started working with a track coach and working on his back, and found that when he came back this year, he was feeling really good and ready to get back at it, guys.
Well, he hit the ball good there, right at Betancourt, so 2 lineouts to short. Grudzielanek is 39, by the way. He'll be 40 in June. So 2 away after the 2-run home run, and now catcher Lou Marson, who came over from the Phillies last year in the trade that sent Cliff Lee to Philadelphia. Oh, and Brian Bannister is missing tonight. He's missing down.
And I think that's where he wants to be, right there, Ryan. Now he's just got to set his gauges up a little higher and then let the ball continue to work its way down and try to get some balls toward the end of the bat.
Brian talked about not getting a good grip on the ball. That's what Joel was saying in the top of the first inning tonight. And he just couldn't get the ball down. Everything was up. He gave up 4 runs in the first inning. He's out of the second inning, but he gives up 2 on the Branyan home run. Miller Lite taste greatness moment later in tonight's game as Alberto Callaspo hits it hard But Branyan is there at first. And one pitch, one away for Jake Westbrook, who got all of his outs on the ground in the first inning, and now all 4 outs and an inning and a third. So Branyan with his first home run of the year. And now the Royals in the second with 1 out have Aviles. He'll be followed by Jason Kendall. Mike joining the Royals in Chicago and finished that series, and then into Texas hitting .435. That's into right center field and down. Chu didn't take a very good route, so it rolls deep, and Aviles is into second base with a 1-out double.
And when you talk about being consistent, this is what Mike has consistently done since he's come back from AAA, and that's hit the ball where it's pitched. And he just worn out right field and right center field. And Chu was actually lucky to cut this ball off and hold him to a double. But in the ball he's hit, Ryan, he's hit a lot of balls right on the nose.
First double of the year. So the Royals have had a runner at second in the first 2 innings. DeJesus walked on 4 pitches in the first, bunted to second, but stranded at second. And now Jason Kendall, who's hit in 5 straight games. One ball, 1 strike. There are 4 Royals in the lineup tonight who have never faced Jake Westbrook. Billy Butler with just 2 at-bats, so really 5 Royals who have very little experience against him. Kendall and DeJesus, along with Pasednik, are on the opposite end of the spectrum. They've had a whole bunch of at-bats. Kendall 16, DeJesus 23, Pasednik 34, so I'm sure their voices were heard in the hitters' meetings. The hitting coach will have remarks. Usually they'll look at some charts, and then a lot of hitting coaches will just open it up to other players who may have just seen something in the past that they can share with the rest of the guys in the lineup.
Well, that's true. Your advanced scout, he usually sends a report in. That's the report they go over the first game of a series. But I think you're right, Ryan. It kind of goes back to what each guy's experience was, because sometimes if the advanced scout may not see what these guys have seen, in an earlier at bat or with earlier teams and things like that.
So 2 down, and with Aviles at second, up comes Mitch Meyer, who hit .310 on the trip. He also walked 6 times and drove in 5, so he's making the most out of his opportunity to play every day with Rick Ankiel on the disabled list. One of the things that may have been discussed during the hitters meeting was being patient with Westbrook. He did walk 5 in his last start, and that was in less than 4 innings. He's walked 1 tonight, and walks have been a problem for him so far this year. No balls, 2 strikes to Meyer. Remember to visit FoxSportsKansasCity.com to see interviews with your favorite Royals. Get to know Royals outfielder Scott Pasednik as part of our Profiles in Royalty series. Just click the video tab at the top of the screen at FoxSportsKansasCity.com. On the corner, Meyer is down, and so are the Royals, and have stranded a runner at second in the first 2 innings. the 15th, the Royals are saluting veterans prior to the 6:10 game with the Chicago White Sox. And the Royals are asking you to nominate veterans that will take the field and will be honored before the game for their dedicated service to our country. To nominate, go to Royals.com/Armed Forces Day. Up the first base line, and Billy Butler back to the bag to get Asdrubal Cabrera, who is 0 for 2. Indians getting a 2-run home run in the second inning from Russell Branyan. And that brings up Grady Sizemore, who singled in the first, stole his third base. Frank mentioned that Sizemore had elbow issues last year and went on the disabled list twice because of that. It was his left elbow, which also happens to be his throwing elbow, and then during the offseason he had the elbow fixed through surgery. So far this year, batting just .220. And I don't know about you, but when I think of Sizemore, I think of very good numbers against the Royals, but because of the elbow and because the Royals pitched him well last year, Grady Sizemore hit just .190 against the Royals last season. 1-2.
Yeah, you think of Grady Sizemore, and you always think of that triple threat. You know, offense, defense, and base running. He was good at all three. But injury sometimes can set you back, and may take you just a little while to regain what you've had. But the kind of skills that he had, it had to be something to do with his injury, because you just don't lose it just like that when you're that talented player.
And he's an everyday player, a grinder as they like to call him, and didn't want to use the injury as an excuse. And at times the Indians just weren't aware of how bad his elbow was bothering him.
Well, then you just basically got to go by the level of play, and the play will tell you a lot of times when something's going on. A player sometimes will keep saying I'm okay, but their production starts to let you know exactly how they really feel.
Well, he just made the list with that swing. And Sizemore is Brian Bannister's third strikeout victim.
Well, that's what you call looking for something and getting something else. And that's what happens right here. Banny throws that change up, and it just starts right in the middle, and it just dives down to the outside corner.
Sam Abramson, our associate producer, is putting that on the list. You know, the last couple of years, Frank, when we see a less than major league swing, we say put it on the list. But we never really had a list. This year we have a list. We're saving all the swings, and at some point we're going to go back and look at all of them, and we'll let the fans vote.
That'd be nice. I'd like to see that. Our own little blooper reel.
So 3 strikeouts for Banny. 2 of those coming in the first inning. And he's 1 ball, 2 strikes on Shin-Soo Choo, who drove Mitch Meyer to the warning track in center field for an out in the first inning. Breaking ball over the outside. Another 2 strikeout inning for Brian Bannister. in Overland Park, and just recently added 2 addiction support programs to a host of other activities. And through her church community, Gina's made sure food is delivered to the sick, Habitat for Humanity programs are supported, and blankets are made and sent to those in need. And tonight she is dancing and enjoying the game from the Buck O'Neill legacy seat.
Yeah, this is her night to shine tonight.
Betancourt into left center, and coming over is Kearns, but has to play it on a bounce. So for the second time in the first 3 innings, the Royals have the leadoff man on. David DeJesus was the first leadoff man on with a 4-pitch walk in the first inning, and the subject of tonight's League Leaders, brought to you by your Kansas City area Toyota dealers, and top slugging percentage from leadoff men. And DeJesus in between the rookie Austin Jackson and the veteran Derek Jeter. Not normally a stat that you keep for a leadoff guy, normally on base percentage, runs scored, but David up there slugging with the best. 4 home runs, 10 doubles, and 2 triples.
He's one of those guys this year, Ryan, you know, where you kind of get used to seeing him on the base a lot, and you look up and you see he's only hitting 264, and it kind of surprises you a lot because he goes in those stretches where you can't keep him off the base.
Yeah, I agree, and there's a flip side of that too. When you watch a team every day and a guy's hitting like 304, and you go, really? When's he getting his hits? I don't remember him, but yeah, David seems to be playing a lot better than 264.
I would agree.
Two balls, 1 strike. Remember, members of the 85 Royals will take on members of the 85 Cardinals in the 85 Classic presented by Farmland Foods. The game starts at 1 o'clock on Saturday, May the 22nd, right here at Kauffman Stadium, before the Royals take on the Rockies at 3:10. Two balls, 2 strikes. Still 2-2. Back to you, caller, presented by Sprint. And 41% think that DeJesus' bat will break out tonight against Jake Westbrook. Keep voting at 432-432. The keyword is Royals, followed by a space, A, B, C, or D. Standard text rates apply. Now Betancourt runs, stops, and DeJesus fouls it away. Normally, sinker guys are good guys to run on.
Well, you're right, because it's a tough pitch a lot of times for the catcher to handle. I mean, he's either reaching down and away or he's on his backhand side, and that makes it tough to get the transition from glove to hand.
Betancourt, 1 attempted stolen base so far and was thrown out. Not going anywhere. And now it's 3-2.
Now with no guesswork here, he's got to be going on this one. It's almost like the automatic hit and run. Because David's got to swing at anything close because it is 2 strikes, and Betancourt to run under that protection.
And he is running, and DeJesus bounces it up the middle. Not far enough for Cabrera to step on the bag, so he'll take the sure out. Betancourt moves up to second base. So now 3 straight innings. The Royals have had a runner at second base with 1 out.
Well, that's true, and if hitters have been paying attention, they know exactly what Milwaukee's been calling strikes all night, and that hitters get kind of drifted into that pattern of the umpire too. So anything close, they know it's been off the plate, they're going to swing at those pitches. Normally he takes that for a ball and he takes a walk. That was one of those things I talked to Jason Kendall about, you know, in Texas, about if a pitcher is consistently hitting a spot, even though it's off the plate, can you bring the umpire with you? And he said if he's there a lot, I can get that pitch a lot for him. But if when he's all over the place, then that's when it's difficult to sell an umpire that your guy's throwing the ball well.
Because they have an idea before the pitch is thrown where the catcher wants the ball.
Well, they see the catcher set up, and they sometimes sit far inside. They can't see whether he's right on the plate or just off the plate, but it's close enough that if they're hitting the glove and the catcher can get it for him and make him aware of it, then like Jason would say, I would just say, hey, you know, he's really putting it where I want it, and you just sell it to the umpire. So it's all about following the glove and hitting the glove.
Now that was a little different because Marson's was setting up outside, but Bill Welke stayed inside, so he didn't go with the catcher.
No, they're not going to go with him body wise. They're going to go in with their eyes. They're still going to sit inside because they don't want to get in the center of the catcher and have to deal with that foul ball. So he'll still sit there, but basically he's just going where the glove is. They watch to see if the glove moves out any further or move down any further, and that'll tell them whether the ball is further out or it's low on the plate.
Still 2-2 on Posednik.
So you always talk about there's a pitcher strike zone, a hitter strike zone, and a catcher strike zone. I'm sorry, an umpire strike zone. So the umpire strike zone is the one that really matters. So you just got to figure out what he's calling and then pitch to his strike zone, and you'll have more success.
Very good eye on a pitch that sinks out of the strike zone. 3-2 on Posednik. Laid down a sac bunt in the first inning, his 7th of the year. That leads the league. And he's done very well with runners in scoring position, among the league leaders in that category. Betancourt singled, went to second on the ground out from DeJesus. Left side, Betancourt thought about going to third, but goes back to second base, and there are 2 down. I want to remind you again about the You Call It sweepstakes presented by Sprint. You can enter for a chance to win a suite for you and 11 guests here at Kauffman Stadium. Just follow the directions. If you participate and You Call It tonight, you'll get a bounce back text message, or you can go to the website on the screen for complete rules and another way of entering. Right now, David DeJesus, the leader in tonight's You Call It. Westbrook drops down, and ball 1 on Billy Butler. Rolled out to shortstop in the first inning. One ball, 1 strike. Well, here's this position that the Royals were confronted with so often on the road trip. Now, overall, the Royals are 4th in the league in hitting. But then they drop down 3 spots with runners in scoring position. That is off the glove of Peralta and out into left field. So Billy Butler drives in Yuniesky Betancourt, and it's a 2-1 game. So I guess it does work for both teams.
Well, whatever you're doing right, just say it when the Royals come up. Billy stayed on this sinker here, Ryan, and this goes off Peralta's glove and right back Cabrera.
And now ball 1 on Jose Guillen. And if you're not sure what we're talking about, Frank's given me a hard time the past week or so, and especially the guys in the truck. Seems like whenever I mention someone on the other team hasn't hit a home run yet this year, or driven in a run, that's exactly what they do in that at-bat, and Russell Branyan did it again here. So we're going to try and do it with the Royals and bring up that they're not hitting as well with runners in scoring position as they are overall. And there you go. You get an RBI base hit.
And Billy's been praying for that the whole road trip. He says, I'm hot. Get men on base for me. And And he showed you what he can do right there. But a little mojo never hurts.
One ball, two strikes.
That was a tough slider that Jose pulled off on that one. First, they better hit a shot to first base. That's the kind of direction you want to hit Jake Westbrook. And the ball gets a little more he elevates, then the more you can get the ball in the air to right field and possibly get you an extra base hit.
Off of his knuckles. Jose now 0 for his last 10. So his average has dropped down to 266. Still leading the Royals with 8 home runs and with 21 RBIs. Into deep left field, it's hooking, and it is a foul ball. Plenty of distance. But Jose just a tick out in front.
Yeah, one of the few sliders that Westbrook left in the middle of the plate. He didn't get to the outside corner and trying to get Jose to reach, and he left this one right in the middle of the plate. He's lucky to get away with that one.
Jose's ground out in the first inning was his first ever plate appearance against Westbrook. And dropping down again, and that's drilled into deep right center field. And Chu in front of the warning track makes the play. Royals get a run to make it a 1-run game at the end of 3. And the Indians have Travis Hafner, Austin Kearns, and Russell Branyan. As that ball slips out of Brian Bannister's hand, he struck out Hafner in the first inning.
I think the one pitch that was giving Brian trouble the other day was that no grip pitch that he throws. He has no seams. And I'm sorry, you're right, no seam, not no grip, no seam, and the ball goes down. And so if the ball is slick and it's slipping out of his hands, and that's what he was dealing with in that game. So that's when you got to say this pitch is not working. So I'm going to go to something else, grab the seams, and try to get back down in the strike zone. You don't want to fight a losing battle, and you don't want to keep dying the same death every day. So you got to say, well, what's going to work to keep me in this ball game?
And you can imagine the trouble he might have if it's a very hot, humid day and his fingers have a lot of perspiration, or if it's a rainy day and the ball is slick because of that.
Well, it's like it's a game of adjustments, and you got to do what you have to do to stay in there.
leadoff walk, and the second leadoff walk given up by Bryant tonight. He walked Austin Kearns in the second inning right before Russell Branyan hit a 2-run home run.
I was kind of surprised Hafner was chasing those changeups down and away. He usually has a pretty good eye. Doesn't swing at many bad pitches.
So Kearns walked and scored in the second inning. And a bullet into left field. So the Indians have 2 on with nobody out. Royals baseball is brought to you by AT&T. Find out what's possible with the nation's fastest 3G network. AT&T, rethink possible. And by Steel Outdoor Power Equipment. Powerful, lightweight, dependable, versatile yard care solutions. Start at steeldealers.com. So 2 on, nobody out, and Russell Branyan, who just hit his first home run of the year in the second inning. A 2-run shot, bringing Kearns home with him. Oh, and 1. We put that one on the list?
I think so.
Really? Put it on the list, Sammy.
Well, Bannon doesn't have to get in a hurry here. He has no speed at first base, and you know Brandon's not going to bunt, so he can just concentrate on the hitter and try to make his pitches.
See, that's our way of getting back at Brandon. You think you're all big because you hit a 2-run home run. Well, you know what? 1 at-bat later, buddy, you're on the list.
He's got 1 more swing.
That's right. This race isn't over. One ball, 2 strikes. 2 different people from the truck telling me that when you go on the list, that's on your permanent record. Well, that's what we were talking about when he hit the home run. With his uppercut type of swing, he's the rare power hitter that you want to pitch up.
I think that was the area that Banning wanted to go. Just get him a little bit more to plate and make it a little more enticing to him, and you can get him out. You can get him to strike out on that pitch.
And along the same lines, we've also mentioned, too, that if a guy is a low ball hitter, that doesn't mean you can't pitch him down, but you got to pitch him lower than low, and he thinks, oh, hey, that's where I want it. But it's too low for him to do anything.
Right, and you got to decide, too, he's a low ball hitter, but is he better low, middle away, or middle in? And then you have somewhere to go. Very rarely they can cover the whole plate.
And he comes back to strike him out, and Brian Bannister has 5 strikeouts already. 1 out in the 4th inning.
It's got a lot of run to it, Ryan. I mean, it just gets in the middle of the plate and just really just kind of slides away from Brandon. I would assume that's that no grip.
Seam.
No seam. I got to get that right now. Because I know he doesn't have seam. I mean, he doesn't have the seams in his fingers, so that's a tough pitch to throw.
And every pitch has some sort of feel to it, but I mean, that's got to be on the top of the list as far as having very good feel. Because that's what the seams are for. The seams are for grip.
Right. It's a pitch to me that you have to know right away whether it's going to work or not. And if you don't have the grip, then there's no way you can try to force it. You got to try between innings and see if you can find it. And if you can't find it, don't throw it.
That's into left center. Pasednik unable to make the play. Hafner coming around to score. Kearns right behind him. And Johnny Peralta, who had been 0 for 12, drives in 2. And it's a 4-1 game in the 4th inning.
You can see this ball runs right back in the middle of the plate, and it's such a touch pitch that you got to have your command on it. And this looks like it might even look like a cutter that stood right out over the plate and right in the middle of the plate. Very hittable.
You know, that cutter, too, is something that I talked to Jason Kendall about, because that's Banny's trademark pitch, is the cutter. But it's interesting that he has pitched much better against left-hand batters than he has right-hand batters. And it's because of that part of the plate. Where that cutter was to Johnny Peralta is out where he can get his arms extended. But with lefties who are hitting just 208 against him, that same part of the plate, that's in on the fist.
Because he's getting it in the on the inner half, and it's moving in on the lefties. And when you throw it to the right-handers, you don't mind want to throw it. You don't mind throwing the cutter at the center of the plate, but you also have to make it move about 6 inches too. And this one, like, it ran back to the middle of the plate and didn't go away at all.
But if that's a left-hand batter, that thing's boring in on his hands.
Right, that's what made Mariano Rivera right there. I mean, that's what he does. He breaks backs, and that's where Banny is so successful on lefties, because it's probably a better angle to throwing to the lefty than it is to the righty. But with the righty, basically, you just got to always create movement with it.
Grudzielanek lined out to short in the second inning. It really has been feast or famine for Brian Bannister tonight. Feast in the first and third innings, no runs and 2 strikeouts in each of those 2 innings, and then famine in the second and fourth innings, where he's given up 2 runs on 2-run extra base hits in each of those 2 innings. So he's mixing the good with the bad in the first 4. And now he's 3-2 on Grudzielanek.
But one thing we noticed about Banny, the way he's pitching tonight, Ryan, is that he's very rarely thrown anything straight. You know, probably no four-seamers, but everything's moving. The cutter, the no-seam pitch. I mean, he's got everything moving. The changeup's moving down and away, but very rarely anything straight. Sometimes you got to use the four-seam fastball to throw the ball inside and get the hitters to move back off the plate, and that'll give you some room to make a mistake with your cutter if it doesn't happen to go as far away from the right-hander as you want it to.
Well, a very high percentage of fastballs. Look at that, 81%. Of course, every cutter that he throws, I think, is registered as a fastball, cut fastball. So a little bit of everything tonight for Banny. 5 strikeouts, which is a high number for him, in 3 1/3 innings. But he's allowed 3 walks, 2 of those walks leading off an inning, both coming around to score. So first and second for Lou Marson, who grounded out sharply to Butler in the second inning. Marson batting right at 200. And if you're wondering about or hoping for a ground ball and an inning-ending double play, Marson is grounded into 3 as Bruce Chen just begins to loosen up in the Royals bullpen, and Bannister really trying to pound the ball inside on Marson and get that ground ball. And there is the ground ball. Out at second. Double play. The Royals get the double play, but the Indians add 2 more runs. topping out at 93. You can double your speed with Roadrunner Turbo from Time Warner Cable. 91 miles an hour, and a strike on Alberto Callaspo, grounded out in the second inning. Alberto led the Royals with 7 RBIs on the trip and also had a couple of home runs. One and two. Indians with 2 in the second. Royals scored in the third. Billy Butler's single getting Betancourt home. But the Indians back with 2 more in the fourth. Into shallow right center field. So Callaspo just golfs it and has a leadoff base hit.
Ryan, I really can't tell you how he hit this pitch. It was boring in on him, and I mean, he's almost trying to get out of the way and swing at the same time. And I mean, this ball is just down, and he just went down and dug this pitch out. I mean, like he swatted it with a tennis racket. You know, it just didn't go. It didn't jump off his bat; it just floated out there.
So he's on, and now Mike Aviles, who doubled in the second inning. So Aviles up to 440 for the year. Limited at bats, of course, but still. No balls, 2 strikes. So kind of a rotation with Betancourt and Getz and Aviles. Now Betancourt will only play shortstop. Getz will only play second base, but Aviles bouncing back and forth between the two. And if Alberto Callaspo ever needs a day off, Trey Hillman saying that he would probably put Aviles at third instead of Willie Bloomquist, and that's who was playing third base when Callaspo was bothered by the oblique early in the season.
Well, Mike has effectively done his job. He's come in here and he's hit the ball, and he's made every day a decision day for manager Trey Hillman. As long as he gets base hits, that decision about where Mike Aviles is going to play is going to continue to come up. I mean, Mike is one of those guys that, he, not only been able to play those 3 positions in the infield, but he's also able to go out to left field and play left field too. So it's just going to depend on what his arm strength is like if he has to make that long throw.
And got him to chase a pitch down and away. And with Mike's stance and his stride, that's the pitch that gives him trouble. Second strikeout for Westbrook. Well, ladies, we've been telling you about the first girls' night out. It's coming up on Friday. White Sox will be here. It's presented by Celsius Tannery. You'll get great pregame entertainment and pampering. Plus, the first 10,000 ladies receive a Royals t-shirt. And proceeds from the event benefit Susan G. Komen for the cure of Greater Kansas City. Callaspo going to move up to second base. A wild throw over there, and the Royals now in the 4th consecutive inning have a runner at second base.
Well, that's a pretty tough error on the first baseman right there, Ryan. He's got to try to pick this. Oh, I'm sorry about that one.
It's an error on Westbrook, not on the first baseman, Russell Branyan. And now Kendall pulls it to the left side. So Callaspo at second base with 2 down. Kendall is 0 for 2. So in the first inning, a runner at second, 1 out. Second inning, runner at second, 1 out. Third inning, runner at second, 1 out. The Royals got him home. That was Betancourt. And now in the 4th inning, a runner at second, 1 out. And now 2 away for Mitch Meyer. He struck out looking in the second inning. Changeup is a little high. 1 ball, 1 strike.
Hey, you go back to when Casper was at first base, Ryan. If they would look at the statistics, you would see that he never steals. And so why would you even waste a throw to first base if you don't have to? And that gets more pitchers in trouble more times than not.
Went too far in the count, 1-2. Well, I think Callaspo has done that to quite a few teams because of his body build. He looks like someone who should be fast and stealing bases, but he doesn't.
But in your pregame meetings, you go over who runs and who doesn't run, and so you have to wonder, did Jake Westbrook do that on his own, or did it come from the dugout? But somebody needs to know that, basically this guy, he's not going to run, and so you just concentrate on that guy at the plate, and now you put him in scoring position, and you got a chance for the Royals to get another run.
Three balls, 2 strikes. You would never want the error, but if that was a legitimate stolen base threat, if that's Scott Pasidnik, you could live with the error because there is a reason why you're throwing over there.
Well, yeah, because he will steal the base. You're right, and he does divide your attention a little bit, but Alberto shouldn't divide your attention at all.
And Mitch takes a walk, so he comes back from 1 ball, 2 strikes. That's Westbrook's second walk. And 2 on, 2 out. Yuniesky Betancourt to the plate. He singled and scored in the 3rd inning. Westbrook also has been fighting some back issues, so he might not be 100%. And you saw Manny Acta keeping a close eye on him. Against the Blue Jays on Thursday, Westbrook 3 2/3 innings, gave up 4 runs, 5 walks, and he only threw 85 pitches. He is 0-2 this year. He has not won in over 2 years. And a high bouncer to Cabrera, close at second base, but out. Meyer hustling, but the inning is over. Well, the result was an error, and you really shouldn't be trying to pick off Alberto Callaspo.
Well, that's true. And he probably realized that once he threw the ball away, that why am I throwing to first base? I got the game going the way I wanted to go, so why would I give anything away at this point?
Westbrook with a 4-1 lead, trying to win for the first time since early April of 2008. One ball, 1 strike. Brian Bannister pitching to Asdrubal Cabrera. 0 for 2 and now 0 for his last 11. And a lot of times when hitters are struggling, they're chasing pitches out of the strike zone. Cabrera had a career year last year for the Indians, which included 42 doubles. And like Brady Sizemore, had to work through some elbow troubles, had surgery on his right elbow during the offseason, also had problems with his left shoulder, but still had those numbers, hitting over 300 and the 42 doubles. Cabrera, Sizemore, and Chu coming up. Butler backhands, Bannister to the bag, one away. Well, if you want to take batting practice at Kauffman Stadium, now you can. For information on the Royals Alumni Batting Practice Day, call 816-504-4150. For $300, you can take Major League batting practice. Royals alumni will throw you batting practice. They'll hit you ground balls, fly balls, give you instruction. We've been saying if you're 30 or older, it's actually 25 or older. And that's coming up on June the 12th. 816-504-4150. Brady Sizemore singled in the first inning, 1 for 2. Right off of Butler's glove and up the line to Jesus, on it quickly. So Sizemore is held to a single.
Well, this is what kind of the hitting we're accustomed to seeing from Sizemore. Billy had the top of his glove, but kind of went right off the tip of his glove right here. This ball's hooking away to his left, and David does an excellent job getting over to the line and holding Sizemore to a single.
When Sizemore singled in the first inning, he stole his third base. Swing and a miss, Shin-Soo Choo. Flied out to deep center in the first inning, struck out in the third. Played his first full Major League season last year, and Shin-Soo Choo was one of only 4 players in the American League who hit at least 300 and had at least 20 home runs and 20 stolen bases. He was also the only player in the major leagues that won a game with the help of a seagull. And that rolls away from Kendall, so that takes the drama out of whether Sizemore is going to try and steal. Runner at second, 1 out. Wild pitch charge to Bannister. Here we go last year. Extra innings. Coco Crisp trying to get to the ball, and it ricocheted off the seagull.
That's what you call an average Hitchcock night in Cleveland. You know, when the ball hit the bird so hard, you could see the bird fluttering, and I'm thinking I'm gonna look back out there and see the bird land in the field, but the bird was gone too.
Yeah. Well, we say it all the time. You know, if you're going to be that close to the field, you really need to keep your eye on the ball, and that applies to the Seagulls also.
Now see how hard he's hitting. You see, he goes down, and I'm thinking this bird's not going to get up.
Yeah.
And you look back out, and everybody's gone.
Chu is jammed, and Betancourt with 2 hands up above his cap. Gets a nice round of applause for that effort. 2 down. And if I remember the story correctly, they had problems with seagulls for a while at Progressive Field. And the solution was that they began to shoot off fireworks in between every half inning. The birds did not like the fireworks, and the more they shot them off, the more they stayed away. And then all of a sudden there were no problems with the seagulls.
Well, they were dive bombing, I tell you. They were all over the place, upper deck especially. I would have liked to have known through the eyes of Coco Crisp what they really looked like. Trying to pick a ball out between all the birds flapping their wings and trying to make a play at the plate at the same time.
Yeah, I mean, even if it doesn't hit a bird, I mean, trying to find the ball. I mean, those birds were landed perfectly in shallow center field.
Now, that size bird probably would have made a difference unless it's about 100 of them.
Now, what is that? Is that a meadowlark?
I'm not an expert on those.
It's a yellow-bellied finch, Kevin Shank tells me. Now our director, Steve Kurtenbach, says it's a northeast goldfinch. Who are you, little bird?
Very pretty.
Yeah. It looks like it's got some canary in its bloodlines. Off of Bannister's foot. So like a hockey goalie, a little kick save to keep it in front of him. And he throws out Hafner to end the fifth.
With a minor league report, as I had a chance to talk to special assistant to the GM, Rusty Kuntz, who was working in Omaha last week with Alex Gordon out in the outfield. And his response to what Alex has been doing was, wow, wow, wow. He can really play. He said day one was rough. Day two was a little better. Day three looked like he'd been playing it for 5 years. He compared his energy and enthusiasm in the outfield to Eric Burns, saying that he's running all over the place. He's diving at everything. He's backing up plays. He's charging. Said there's two things, guys, that he really needs to do if you're switching the position. One is you've got to want to do it. Two is that you got to want to put in the effort. Well, everybody knows that Alex is always working very hard. That's not a problem. And he said he's running around with a big smile on his face. Now the question is, can it carry over into his hitting? Tonight, just started Omaha, Reno. Alex 1 for 1 with a home run, guys.
Well, if Rusty's saying that, I mean, Rusty knows outfield play as good as anyone in baseball. So that's good to hear, because in Little League, the best players always played on the infield because very few Little Leaguers could hit the ball consistently to the outfield. So you wanted your best hand guys, and that kind of moves to Pony League and high school. But the higher you go up, you have to be just as skilled in the outfield as you are in the infield.
Well, that's what this game's all about, getting skilled people at every position, and the better skilled they are, the better your ball club. And it's kind of encouraging to hear that report, that from Rusty, because Rusty does do a good job in working with the outfielders. And I know that Trey Hillman was hoping that by him moving to the outfield, it would carry over to his offense at the same time.
Nice big bounce for Branyan at first base. David DeJesus 0 for 2 with a walk tonight. Here's tonight's AT&T trivia question. Who are the two oldest players ever to win a Gold Glove as an American League second baseman? Are they both in the house?
You're not allowed to guess.
I can ask questions. Are they both in the house? Kevin, are they both in the house?
I'm thinking they are.
All right, I won't give the answer. I just want to know for my own sake.
We don't want Kevin sending us messages.
But let me ask you, you're a great guy to ask this question. For someone who played the infield, at a very high level. 8 Gold Gloves. There's the statue and the outfield experience. But as a major league coach, you were an outfield coach.
Yes.
So, and I'm sure Rusty's worked with these things with Alex. Cabrera picks it off behind second base. Nice play to get Posednik. What is going to be the biggest challenge for a lifelong infielder moving to the outfield?
You know, talking to Brian McRae, when he went from second base to center field, he thought the running part was the toughest. And then on the infield, you're taking a series of short steps, going to balls. You never really stretch out to go get a ground ball. And the outfield is just re-stretching the legs out. He had a lot of hamstring problems when he first went out there. And once he got the muscle stretched out, then he thought that, to him, was the toughest part. And reading balls off the bat, your depth perception, seeing how good that is, those things are all key too. Just understanding in left field the ball hooks to the line, and in right field they slice to the line. So just getting used to those things. And you find that when you go to left field, they say it's tougher to play between left and right, but not if it's on your glove side. And when I had Chris Labansky, Mitch Meyer, and Billy Butler in Wichita, Butler was left field, Labansky was center, and Meyer was right. And so what I did, I asked him if I could switch them all, and I moved Billy to right, Labansky to left, and Mitch to center, because I put Billy and Chris both on their glove side, and it worked out better for them.
Westbrook tearing a page out of Brian Bannister's book. That one hurt a little more. So he gets Billy Butler and now jogs back to the dugout with a little limp. Sandwiches and breakfast items at Panera Bread. And by Chevrolet, come see for yourself why 1,000 people a day are switching to Chevy. See your Kansas City area Chevy dealer. Four to 1 Indians coming up in the 6th inning. A 2-run second and a 2-run fourth. Austin Kearns has scored twice. Walked leading off the 2nd inning. And then came home on Russell Brannion's home run. Singled in the 4th, and he and Travis Hafner coming home on Johnny Peralta's double. Aviles running along the edge of the outfield grass, recovers and throws out Kearns. Coming up tomorrow is a combination of Ink College Night and Buck Night. For only $7, high school and college students with a valid school ID can save over 70% on select field plaza, outfield box, or high-B infield seats. And Buck Nights mean hot dogs, small Pepsi products, peanuts, and Twinkies are just $1. Again, that's tomorrow night. a 7:10 game. Go to Royals.com or 1-800-6-ROYALS. Kyle Davies against Fausto Carmona tomorrow. 1-1 on Russell Branyan. Hit his first home run of the year to right center field in the second inning, and then Bannister came back and struck him out in the fourth. Again, keeping the ball up above that uppercut swing, 1-2.
Well, that's kind of what we talked about, Ryan. You can throw it over the middle of the plate as long as it's above the belt, and he'll swing right under this ball, and he just waits for you to make a mistake down, and that's when he gets you.
Up again, and down he goes. 6 strikeouts for Brian Bannister.
Well, this is what you call just learning. You know, this is what you want to try to do with Russell Branyan, and Banny came up and made easy work of it this at bat.
That ties a season high for him. He had 6 strikeouts at Toronto back on the 19th of April in a game that he lost. And Callaspo lets the ball play him. And Johnny Peralta's on with 2 outs.
Now, this is a ball here where Alberto really could have went straight across and made this play and tried to get it on the short hop, but he tried to do a spin and catch at the same time and lost track of the ball. So you see how long that hop was. So if he goes straight across and traps this ball, it makes it a much easier play. But he tried to go for the 360 spin, and the ball got by him.
It's an error on Alberto Callaspo. 25th error for the Royals this year. So that's been a disappointment. That's the second most in the league. Only Detroit has more errors. Oh, and 1 to Mark Grudzielanek, who was lined to short and walked. Thought about it, and the pitch is outside. Tonight's AT&T trivia question, we asked you, who are the 2 oldest players ever to win a Gold Glove as an AL second baseman? I'm going to guess Mark Grudzielanek and Frank White.
I was 36, I believe.
I think that's how old he was. No, he was 30. Yeah, he was 36. You were 37. 37. Did you take your cane out with you to second base?
I played 150 games when I was 38.
Wow.
Come on, Ryan.
38. That's almost as old as I am. Look at me. I got a back thing on my chair here. Orthotics in my shoes.
Well, I didn't learn about the new drug in time. Might have been 43.
I believe it.
I'm absolutely glad that I was dumb.
Was that the last one?
That was the last one.
Last one. That was number 8. 2 balls, 2 strikes. There he is. Looks just like you. That was 2006 with Frank down on the field. And that year, Mark broke Frank's consecutive errorless games record for a second baseman. And he shoots it through the right side. That is a Mark Grudzielanek base hit. Great bat control. And does that often with 2 strikes. So with 2 on and nobody out, with an error and a base hit, the Indians have 2 on.
Yeah, he really doesn't try to do too much, Ryan. You're right. He just tries to hit the ball that way and takes advantage of the hole and gets himself a base hit. I think you've heard about those shots that guys take for their knees when the cartilage is just about gone in their knees, and they take those 3 shots like 3 weeks in a row, and they're supposed to last like 6 months. And I talked to Mark, and he said he found a shot that lasts up to a year. So I'm having to research that.
It's a little late now, isn't it?
Well, he took a year off. Yeah, I mean, just from the general comfort of just walking every day and going upstairs and dealing with the arthritic effects of cold weather and things like that.
Playing in old-timer games.
Well, that is even harder.
Stretching singles into doubles in the old-timers games.
Well, sometimes your mind makes dates your body can't keep, you know.
Tonight's copyrighted telecast is presented by the authority of the Kansas City Royals. It may not be reproduced or retransmitted in any form, and the accounts and descriptions of this game may not be disseminated without the express written consent of the Kansas City Royals Baseball Corporation. Ryan Lefebvre with Frank White and Joel Goldberg. Right to Aviles at second base, and that is the inning. A strike from Jake Westbrook to Jose Guillen. Two hard hit balls, but out. Grounded out sharply to first in the first, flied out to deep right in the third. And that ball is just foul. And Jose, that's the second time he's hit one there. So he is on Jake Westbrook. Just hasn't been able to put the balls that he has launched in between the foul poles, and the ones that are in between the foul poles has been right in the defense.
Yeah, he's actually had a great approach against him all night, like you said, Ryan. And just one of those situations where you do everything right sometimes, and it may not work the first couple of times, but if you stay with it, you never know.
Still 1-2. Still 1 ball, 2 strikes. Guillen, Callaspo, and Aviles coming up. Royals have had base runners in every inning except for the 5th. They've had base runners in scoring position in each of the first 4 innings. And then Westbrook got the Royals in order in the 5th, although 2 of those balls were hit hard. Royals with 1 run, 4 hits. And the hits coming from Billy Butler with an RBI, Alberto Callaspo, Mike Aviles, and Yuniesky Betancourt. So Jose now is 6 for his last 40. Hasn't hit a home run in a while. Cabrera comes up from short and throws him out. I tried. We hope you'll make plans to head out to Kauffman Stadium as we kick off interleague play. The Royals take on the Colorado Rockies Friday, May the 21st, and that means after the game, a new and improved Fireworks Friday presented by Pepsi and Hy-Vee. Go to Royals.com or call 1-800-6-ROYALS. Ball one on Alberto Callaspo. By the way, Frank, it was a Western Kingbird that we were looking at.
It's really pretty bird.
It really was. Kevin Shank and Steve Kurtenbach were wrong. So was I. Westbrook cursing himself as the ball goes by him. 1-out single for Callaspo, his second hit of the game. Janice Murray is a longtime camera operator here at Kauffman Stadium and is working the Cleveland Indians telecast. Kevin Shank tells me that she texted the truck the information. So she's shooting the game for the Indians, but she's listening to our broadcast apparently. To me, that looks like a dove and a canary got together. Kind of got the dove head and the canary belly. It is a Western Kingbird, not to be confused with. What were the first two guesses, Kevin? It is not a yellow-bellied finch, nor is it a northeastern goldfinch. There's Tim Belcher, former Royals pitcher, in his first year as pitching coach of the Cleveland Indians. He had scouted for them and had been in their front office for a few years. So he replaces Carl Willis, and a complete turnover of the coaching staff when Manny Acta took over. And we've talked before about, the importance of teaching attitude as well as mechanics when you're a pitching coach. Well, there's a guy who pitched with some attitude.
He can definitely teach you attitude. You're right, Ryan. When he had the ball, it was his ball.
Right field, Shin Soo Choo makes the play on Aviles. Mike 1 for 3. 2 outs in the 6th inning. So base runners in every inning but the 5th for the Royals. They have stranded 5 so far, and 3 of those 5 have been left in scoring position. Jason Kendall has grounded out to third twice. Laying down a bunt. Trying to catch Peralta deep on the left side. 1 ball, 1 strike. So the Royals with 3 games here against Cleveland. And then the White Sox are here over the weekend. The Royals then will go on the road and play 2 at Baltimore and 2 at Cleveland. Inside out swing. Grudzielanek throws out Kendall, and the Royals strand their 6th runner in the bottom of the 6th. Summary, 3 half innings of scoring. Russell Branyan in the second inning hits a 2-run home run to give the Indians a 2-0 lead. Then Billy Butler driving in a run in the third inning, bringing in Yuniesky Betancourt, but Johnny Peralta with a 2-run double in the fourth. That scored Travis Hafner and Austin Kearns to make it 4-1, and that's where we stand now. Brian Bannister is out after 6 innings, gives up 4 runs, 6 hits. And Bruce Chen appears for the 7th time. Only 4 2/3 innings, 5 walks. That's what stands out for him, but he is averaging less than an inning per appearance. The Royals might ask for a full inning from Bruce here, with Cabrera, Sizemore, and Chu coming up, and after that Hafner. So Cabrera, switch hitter, the only one who will bat right-handed. 1 ball, 1 strike.
I think if Banny had to take anything back, Ryan, it'd be those 2 walks that led to runs. You know, when you go back to the second inning, that inning that walk led to a home run, and then again, his walk in the 4th inning led to a 2-run double.
So you take those away, and the home run is solo, and the double drives in 1 run, and now it's a 2-1 game. So the Indians with 6 hits, 4 runs against Brian Bannister, with their production coming from the 5, 6, 7, and 8 hitters. Grady Sizemore also with a couple of hits, 2 singles. Sizemore batting second this year, and in some ways he has something in common with David DeJesus, where really can't find the perfect spot for him. He's been a very good leadoff hitter, but he also hits for a lot of power. And a couple of years ago, the Indians experimented by having Grady Sizemore hit third, try to take more advantage of that power. Now, Manny Acta decided that he would put him in the number 2 position, so he would still get on base. But this is interesting. Manny Acta figured, after looking at data, that Grady Sizemore loses 150 opportunities every year by leading off the game. There's no chance for him to drive anyone else in that very first at-bat of every game. So now, when he bats second, that doesn't always mean the leadoff man will be on, but several times the leadoff man will be on, and a double from him will get a run home. So that was his reasoning for batting him second.
Well, they can also say he has the ability to pull a ball, and by batting second, he can hit the ball in the hole between second and first and create a first and third situation. But I don't know. Can you cover all the bases?
Well, you know, the thing about Sizemore, though, he's similar to David DeJesus, where you move him around, and he just doesn't perform like he does when he's the leadoff guy. He's batting .225.
Well, you know, those guys that can hit leadoff home runs, they're pretty special, too.
Just drive yourself in. Foul ground, Cayaspo over near the dugout sweep, and then runs out of room.
I mean, he's also able to not only drive himself in, but when he's on base, he's able to steal second. So that's like a double in itself.
He takes a walk. So another walk given up by Bruce Chen. That is 6 walks in 5 innings, which is a high number as it is, but it's even higher when, remember, he usually works less than 1 inning when he comes out of the bullpen. And now Shin-Soo Choo, who is 0 for 3, but that was against Brian Bannister. And that's stroked into right field. So you got to pitch up. Shin 1 for 4, and the Indians have 2 on.
Well, that's one area that Bob McClure and Trey Hillman is pulling their hair out, is just getting the guys out of the bullpen to come in and throw strikes and get that first guy. Now you leave a ball up and Chu gets a base hit, and now you got 2 men on, and the Indians have something going. I mean, they've all but said, hey, let them hit the ball. If they hit the ball and get on, we don't care. You know, just don't walk them. Because when you come out of the bullpen, you're only looking at maybe one inning and getting 3 outs. And when you walk that first guy, now you just open up a cold can of worms and a possibility of another pitcher coming in out of the bullpen.
Ball one on Travis Hafner, 0 for 2. He was one of those walks, leading off the 4th inning against Bannister, and then scored on the Peralta double. Runners go. And Kendall's throw was close, but Sizemore looked like he was sliding to the outside part of the bag, and I don't know if Iaspo's glove ever got to the foot.
You know, a lot of times on those close plays at the third baseman, if this throw is down, then you can go down on one knee, and that'll put you a little bit closer to the tag. But if Sizemore is watching Alberto, then he will go to the outer half of the bag. But you see, he catches the ball in foul territory, so the throw, if the throw's on the inside part of the bag, he's got a chance to get it. But this ball actually has to reach back and then have to come all the way back, and just not enough time.
Looks like the right call.
Now, Alberto did everything that I would do, is go down on one knee, try to get closer to the tag as possible, but the throw is on the foul side of third base.
Trey Hillman ejected from the game. This is a little closer to Trey Hillman's angle. Now, from our replay, it's clear that Sizemore was safe, but you have to remember, Trey is on the first base side and he is down low. So he doesn't see what we're seeing here. He sees that it looked like the throw and the tag arrived before the foot did, but the foot was on the outside part of the bag.
Sizemore did a great job sliding to the outside corner and just holding on to it. A lot of guys, when you do that slide, they let that front foot go across the bag. But in that pop-up slide, you got to have that foot right on top of the bag, that lead foot on the outside corner. Great job by Sizemore sliding into third base.
Infield in, runner coming to the plate, and Betancourt has to play it to first. So contact play on, and Sizemore got a good jump and just high enough to get over the mound, or that might be an out at the plate.
Just the right pitch and the right type of play. He got Hafner to reach a little bit, and he couldn't feel it. Chen couldn't feel it himself, and you see the gap right there. By the time Betancourt takes a crow hop, it's going to be too close a play at the plate, so you have to take the easy out at first base.
So John Gibbons takes over as manager with Trey Hillman ejected. So Bruce Chen is out, and Josh Roop comes in on the Chevy call to the bullpen to face Austin Kearns. steal and another runner home. So Josh Roop takes over with 2 outs. He'll get Austin Kearns with a runner at third base. So the Royals down by 4, but 3 of the 5 runs that have scored from the Indians, 3 of the 6 now, as Shin-Soo Choo comes home, a result of a walk coming around to score. Austin Kearns has had a good night. He's scored twice, and now he's driven in a run. Trey Hillman ejected after arguing the double steal and the call at third base. Sizemore moving up to third. Choo moving up to second. So John Gibbons, bench coach, will manage the team the rest of the night. Russell Branyan hit a 2-run home run in the second inning, his first of the year. And then Brian Bannister came back to strike him out in the 4th and 6th innings. So the 2 runs in this inning charged to Bruce Chen in just 2/3 of an inning. Branyan facing Josh Roop for the first time. One ball, one strike.
It's that situation we talked about earlier with Roop being a sinker baller and Brandon being a low ball hitter. And this is where it's important to know whether he's strong middle in or strong middle away, because you have to pitch to your strength, but you have to understand with him what side of the plate you want to pitch to.
Well, for most left-hand batters, that would be middle in. Nice save by Kendall. Wow. Playing it almost like a first baseman. Three and one. And he goes to the opposite field. So a 2-hit game for Russell Branyan, who resurrected his career last year with the Mariners with 31 home runs, and then was a late sign in spring training by the Indians this year. So Roop has come on and given up base hits to Kearns and Branyan. And before he goes after Johnny Peralta, Bob McClure with a visit. Now the entire infield is going to join in on the conversation. So nobody warming up behind Josh Roop. It's his job to get the Royals out of the inning. And Peralta hit a 2-run double in the 4th inning, scoring Hafner and Kearns. That made it 4-1, and now the Indians have added 2 in the 7th inning, with Hafner and Kearns driving in runs. Ball 1 in the dirt. The Indians waiting on Johnny Peralta. He had a very difficult April, and if you look at his career month by month, that is his worst month. Hitting only .224 in April, but got off to an even worse start in May, hitting just .160 in that month coming into tonight, but 1 for 3 with a 2-run double. He got a long-term contract with the Indians after having a very good 2005 season, but kind of a decline. He did kind of resurrect things in 2008, but last year just .254, 11 home runs, and batting just .207 coming into tonight. He is no longer the shortstop. They have moved him over to third base. And I remember when he was putting together that year in 2005, there were the comparisons with Derek Jeter.
Well, I remember that too, Ryan. A lot of times when you go from shortstop to a corner position, which is normally a power position, there's always that urge to maybe try to hit for more power, and maybe your average will suffer some. So if history repeats itself, he'll have a good May. But that's one of the things about position changes. If you don't really stay within yourself and you try to do a little too much, you will lose something offensively.
3 balls, no strikes. Brian Bannister went the first 6, gave up 4 runs. Bruce Chen in this inning getting the first 2 outs, but allowing 2 runs. And now Roop. 3 balls, 1 strike. Prior to his 2-run double in the 4th inning, Peralta had been 0 for 12, so he came stumbling into Kauffman Stadium. And that's off of his foot. 3 balls, 2 strikes. The Indians on Sunday snapped a 5-game losing streak. They've still lost 9 of their last 12, with their biggest problem being on offense. Second from the bottom in runs scored, second from the bottom in home runs. They are at the very bottom when it comes to slugging percentage, so this is a rare night for them to come up with 6 runs in less than 7 innings. Another walk, and they're loaded up for Grudzielanek. So 5 walks in less than 7 innings. Grudzielanek has lined to short. He has walked, and he has singled to right. Jason Kendall has made 3 plays like that in this inning. Two balls, no strikes. Grudzielanek here for 3 years. 3 memorable years for him. In 2006, he won his first and only Gold Glove. In 2007, he was the Joe Burke Player of the Year. And then in 2008, he got his 2,000th career hit. And then last year, as Joel told us, didn't get the offers that he wanted. Played a handful of minor league games with the Twins. They told him he wasn't in the plan, so he said enough of that. So he did not play in the big leagues at all last year. And now the count is 3 balls, 1 strike. 39 years old. Grud will turn 40 at the end of June.
Well, Valbuena was supposed to be the guy at second base for the Indians, but they say basically he got full happy and offensively just didn't really get it going. Had a bad second half to last year. Also hit like 227, had 83 strikeouts in the second half of last season, and just couldn't get it going this year. So that's why Grud's in the lineup right now.
Well, John Gibbons and the Royals didn't want to do this. This was going to be Josh Roop's inning to finish, but he faces 4, gives up 2 hits, 2 walks, 1 with the bases loaded. So the Royals have to bring on Dusty Hughes in our Chevy call to the bullpen. Follow the journey of Catholic Central versus Trenton. Replaytheseries.com. So Dusty Hughes is the third pitcher in the inning. And he throws a strike to Lou Marson, who's the ninth man to come up. So a tough night for the bullpen in the dreaded seventh inning. Royals now have been outscored in this inning by a 2-1 margin, 28-14 this year. No balls, 2 strikes on Marson. And it's too bad because Royals bullpen was starting to put things together. They're on a nice little roll coming into tonight. Royals now have been outscored from the 7th, 8th, and 9th innings by 26 runs. 1 ball, 2 strikes. This was before the game started. In the last 4 games, the Royals bullpen ERA was 2.22. Guys seem to be settling somewhat into roles. Robinson Tejeda had really picked it up. And Dusty Hughes comes in and gets the final out. 3 more runs score. Royals down by 6. The 7th inning, and now Panera will take us for a little trip around the American League. Yankees and the Tigers will play a doubleheader tomorrow, postponed tonight. Seattle winning at Baltimore, so the Mariners have won 2 in a row after an 8-game losing streak. Boston beats Toronto, so the Red Sox now 2 games over 500. Here's the top 2 teams in the West. Texas winning 4 in a row, a 1-game lead so far. Chicago and Minnesota. Former Royal Jamie Wright throws a strike to Mitch Meyer. Minnesota, by the way, a 3-game lead in the Central. Chicago is in 3rd place. They are 8 games back, and Chicago will be here after this series with the Indians. So Jamie Wright hooking on with the Tribe in 2008 and in 2009. He pitched the most innings of any reliever in all of Major League Baseball. Branyan steps back to get a bigger hop. And Mitch Meyer is out at first base. He is 0 for 2 with a walk. So Jamie Wright with the Rangers 2 years ago, the Royals last year, 163 and a third innings. So he comes to Cleveland with his rubber arm. And Jamie Wright appearing in his 11th game tonight. Ball 1 to Yudhiemski Betancourt. He Scored the Royals run back in the bottom of the third inning, led off with a single. Coming home on Billy Butler's 2-out base hit. Alberto Callaspo has a 2-hit game. 1 ball, 1 strike. This shouldn't be a huge adjustment for the Royals. You go from one big sinker balling right-hander to another. The approach is pretty similar. Jamie Wright and Jake Westbrook, in addition to having the same initials.
That's good. Jamie's primarily all sinker ballers. He will throw occasional slider, but mainly he's going to try to run the sinker ball in there and try to get the ground ball.
Still 2-2 on Betancourt. Last year, 65 games for the Royals. Jamie Wright was 3-5, 75 appearances the year before that for Texas. And last year was Jamie's second tour with the Royals, also pitching a handful of games back in 2003. Betancourt is down on strikes, 2 away. Up comes David DeJesus. Walk back in the first inning. He has grounded out twice since. It's 0-1. Jamie Wright wants a shining light in the Colorado Rockies organization. He was their first-round pick back in '93, but then had some shoulder problems and some knee problems. In between 1993 and 1996, the first year that he made it to the big leagues, he had 3 operations on his knee. 2 balls, 1 strike on David. And had some shoulder problems. Had his right elbow operated on in 2001. Rodzolanek on the right side gets to Jesus. Jamie Wright has a 1-2-3 7th inning. truly great engineering today at your authorized Mercedes-Benz dealer. So to the 8th inning, and Dusty Hughes, who got the Royals out of a frustrating top of the 7th inning, will get the top of the order. And so much for when a guy is a leadoff hitter and they say, well, you know, when you lead off, you have to remember you only lead off in the first inning. So after that, you can be hitting anywhere else. As Drupal Cabrera is leading off for the 5th time tonight. He is 0 for 4, 3 ground outs and a strikeout. And Dusty Hughes is ahead 1 ball, 2 strikes. And now Cabrera is 0 for his last 13. Royals needed 3 relievers to get out of a 3-run 7th. Nice play by Dusty. Out at first base.
You got to play your position as a pitcher, and you got to be squared up, ready to make this play. And he was in good fielding position. They usually want to say step and throw, but he wanted to run it over there for a minute. They realized, oh, I can't beat him. I better let it go. He threw it off the wrong foot. Almost buried it over there. You see more pitchers do that. You know, a lot of them don't like to just stop and throw the ball to first base for some odd reason. They don't mind running it halfway over there and then getting rid of it, but it must be something to that.
Well, the running halfway takes the overhand throw out of it. If you run halfway, they can underhand toss it to first base. Good night for Grady Sizemore. 2 hits, a couple of stolen bases, and a run scored. And when he stole third on the front end of a double steal in the 7th inning, Trey Hillman came out to argue and was thrown out by third base umpire Jim Reynolds. One ball, 2 strikes. Last year, the Indians won the season series with the Royals, 11-7. Interesting, all games, every series was a 2 out of 3. Royals won the first series, and the Indians won the next 5. And there were a lot of highlights, Royals highlights last year, as Sizemore strikes out 2 away, or just season highlights, if you will, that came from that series. And I'll remind you of a few and see if this rings a bell from last year. Remember, the Indians turned 6 straight double plays in one game against the Royals. Gil Mesh had a game where he retired 16 in a row but took the loss. Alberto Callaspo with his first 4-hit game, his first Major League Grand Slam was against the Indians. Zach Greinke set a team record with 15 strikeouts against the Indians last year. Mitch Meyer hit his first Major League home run against the Indians last year. We already looked back at the game that Shin-Soo Choo's at the plate now, won the game hitting a ball off of a seagull. And then there was an exciting extra inning game in September. Remember, David DeJesus in both the 9th inning and the 11th inning threw out a runner at the plate, and the Royals went on to win 2-1. So that was quite a season series between those two. 2-2 on Shin-Soo Choo. Billy gets a nice big hop. So Dusty Hughes is phase 4, retired 4. 7-1 Indians to the bottom of the 8th.
Boulevard Royals Live. We will be talking about walks continuing to haunt the Royals once again. Jake Westbrook staying low with that sinker and getting a lot of ground outs. Highlights, reaction, and much more with Paul Splittorff and myself coming up in just a bit, guys.
All right, Joel, thank you. Dusty Hughes in a bright spot tonight in an otherwise frustrating night. Former Royal Jamie Wright got the Royals in order in the 7th inning. He'll stay on for Posednik, Butler, and Guillen. Scott 0 for 2. Laid down a sac bunt in the 1st inning, his 7th of the year. He leads the league in that category. Jamie Wright trying to hang on so Jake Westbrook can win his first game since April the 8th of 2008 at the Angels. Holding the Royals to 1 run, 5 hits in his 6 innings. 3 balls, 1 strike on Posednik.
Well, Jamie Wright, when he was with the Royals last year, the thing that got him in trouble was when he was just too strong and his fastball would flatten out or he lose command of his sinker and he just runs right away from him.
Stroke to center. Sizemore a bit shallow, but races back, and it's off of his glove. Posednik on his way to third base. And a good start for the Royals in the 8th inning. It's a triple for Posednik, his 2nd of the year.
Well, this is something you normally don't see from Grady Sizemore here. Normally he gets a good jump on the ball, and this ball started to tail away from him. He went straight back, and the ball went at an angle. Didn't play the slice off the bat of Posednik, and just out of his reach. I think when that ball was first hit, I think he thought the ball was going to go right over his head. And then the ball started to tail as he was going back and just didn't make the adjustment right away. And then Scotty just continues to run, and that's definitely a triple anytime the ball gets over center fielder's head for him.
Looked like for a few steps there that Posednik thought he was out, that he had lined to center field. Billy Butler has driven in the Royals run, a chance to drive in another one. We got Betancourt to the plate back in the 3rd inning. 1-1 from 6'6" Jamie Wright.
Yeah, that's one of those straight fastballs that Scott Posednik got that didn't have much sink to it, and he just hit right through the ball, and it really had a lot, I would say, surprising power to me this year. The ball's really jumped off his bat from day one.
I'll get a runner home. So it's 7-2. Butler has driven in both runs. Well, the 2 home runs he hit on the road trip, Posednik, those were not cheapies. I mean, deep right center field in Chicago, and even though the ball was carrying on that wild Thursday night in Texas, he still got it a good 3-4 rows into the upper deck.
And I saw him earlier in the year hit a ball off the left field wall here in Kaufman, and that's not a cheapie for a left-hander either. And it's just been fun to watch when he's been on. He's just quiet body, let his hands do the work, and just got a live bat.
Tough luck 0 for 3 for Guillen. Grounded out hard in the 1st inning, flied to deep right in the 3rd. Jose is 0 for his last 12. Jamie Wright frustrated with that last offering. Two and one. Jamie's bounced around. Mentioned 1st-round pick of the Rockies. He also played with the Brewers, the Cardinals, the Royals, back to the Rockies, the Giants, the Rangers, back to the Royals, and now at the Indians. And on his trunk that he travels with, it says, "Have sinker, will travel." And a guy that big, still with a pretty good arm, and all the innings he pitches, there's a lot of teams that would like to have him in the bullpen.
But basically, all he has to do is throw strikes and create ground balls, and a lot of managers like that guy late in the game.
Now Guillen strikes out. Marson completes the strikeout. 2 down.
I mean, he has tremendous sink on his fastball, and when it's working, it's awful hard to track. And you see this one here, Ryan. This is a different type of sinker. He had been showing the sinker that ran in on right-handers, but this one just turns right over on the plate and just LJ swings just over the top of it, and that's the kind that you can get those high choppers with. And that's 2 types of sinkers he's throwing today. It's pretty nice.
Sinker low to Callaspo. 2 singles, 2 out of 3 tonight. Broke his bat. Branyan backhands. Jamie Wright to the bag. Royals had a run in the 8th, down by 5. And had a couple of strikeouts, and now Joakim Soria to get some work. And he'll get the 4, 5, and 6 hitters. Travis Hafner, Austin Kearns, and Russell Branyan. Hafner hitless tonight, but he's driven in a run. He has scored a run. One ball, one strike. Hafner is from Sikeston, North Dakota, small town, 180 population. But he played his college ball at Cowley County Community College in Arkansas City, Kansas, and part of a 1997 JUCO World Series team. Played with a couple of other future major leaguers. Remember Junior Spivey, Travis Hughes. And his town was so small, they had no high school baseball team. He played a little American Legion during the summer. .23 in Travis Hafner's entire high school.
Well, 2 pitches ago, Ryan. This pitch here, I don't know, how do you miss that one? I mean, with Soria in, you know he's going to be around that glove, and the umpire should know that by now, seeing him work over the last couple of years.
didn't quite get it. And Mitch Meyer coming over from center field. So Hafner is out number 1. Austin Kearns to the plate. Let's take a look at tonight's Miller Lite Taste Greatness Moments.
Well, Austin Kearns had a pretty good night tonight, Ryan. 2 singles, 1 in the 4th, and then another single coming in the 7th that plated a run for the Indians.
He has scored 3 times tonight. He's a big guy. We walked by him today during batting practice. 6'3", 240 pounds. I didn't realize he was that big, but remember the Reds, they thought they had a great outfield. Austin Kearns, Adam Dunn, Ken Griffey Jr. Good outfielders. Good power at the plate. Didn't quite pan out the way the Reds had hoped. Griffey had injury problems. Austin Kearns had injury problems. He's been on the DL 7 times in his career. But as we mentioned earlier in the game, a guy that's been around for a while is only 29 years old.
I'm sure he liked that park in Cincinnati. That's a hitter's ballpark all the way there. I mean, Adam Dunn made that park look small a lot of times. One of the few ballparks I haven't seen. I'm looking forward to seeing that this year.
Great place to hit. Not so great to pitch.
There's almost no parks around that I played in.
That's a scary thought.
Oh, it is. I mean, it shows you how many new ballparks have gone up.
2 up, 2 down against Soria. And now Russell Brandon to the plate. He's a subject of tonight's Chevrolet Play of the Games. We go back to the 2nd inning.
Well, Ryan, this is a long home run off Bannister. He left the ball out over the plate, and Russell Brandon hit a no-doubter to right center field, deepest right center field.
That was Brandon's first home run of the year. I got to look at the American League cities now. That's pretty amazing what you just said. There's a new Yankee Stadium. You didn't play in Tampa Bay. You played at Skydome, right?
Played at Skydome.
Played at Fenway.
Played at Fenway.
Camden Yards?
No.
Okay, so there's 3 out of 5 in the East. You didn't play at the new Minnesota. No Comerica. How about the new Comiskey?
No.
Jacobs Field? No.
No.
You played here, even though this is the new Kauffman Stadium.
The new Kauffman Stadium.
Didn't play in Texas?
No.
You did play in Oakland?
Yes.
You played at the Big A, and you didn't play at Safeco Field.
Didn't play at the new Big A, you know.
So you played, of the 14 American League cities, you've played in 1, 2, 3, 4. You've played in 5 of the current 14 ballparks in the American League. It's amazing.
And every year it gets less and less.
Oh, my. That is a tee shot into deep right field, and Branyan has hit back-to-back home runs. Or 2 home runs in 1 game, I should say. So no home runs coming into tonight. And now he's got 2, and that's 3 home runs allowed by Joakim Soria in his last 2 outings. Some balls just have that sound off the bat.
Well, when he hits one, Ryan, you know it's hit. And I mean, this is a 94-mile-an-hour fastball down in his zone, and he knew right away. Just listen to the sound of that ball when it comes off his bat.
So back out to a 6-run lead. And now Johnny Peralta, he drove in 2 in the 4th inning with a double that scored Hafner and Kearns. Two and 1. 2 balls, 2 strikes.
No, even though Joaquin's been hit, pretty hard his last couple times out, he's always thrived on pinpoint control, being able to change speeds. And I think one of the things he may be suffering from is lack of work. You can only get so much done in the bullpen and throwing on the sides, but you can't really simulate that game action when you come in and try to get 3 outs to try to protect 1 run or 2 runs, and you just can't get. You got to be in that heat on a regular basis in order to stay sharp.
Well, he's given up 4 home runs now this year, and those 4 home runs coming in just a span of, well, at least at the moment, less than 13 innings. Last year, Soria gave up 5 home runs, but that was in the span of 53 innings. And that's a low number for him. He did spend quite a bit of time on the disabled list last year.
He's just in that position when you're a closer, you're coming in, your adrenaline's flowing, and you're all pumped up and you're ready to go, and you come in a game like this one tonight, you got to create that for yourself, and sometimes that's awful hard to do.
Royals down by 6 as we go to the bottom of the 9th inning. Hector Ambrose will take over on the mound. 3rd pitcher tonight for Cleveland. Indians getting 6 innings out of Jake Westbrook, who gave up 1 run, 5 hits, and 2 innings out of Jamie Wright, who gave up a run. The Royals will have Mike Aviles, Jason Kendall, and Mitch Meyer coming up. 2 runs, 6 hits for the Royals. 6 runners left on base tonight. And 3 of the 6 left in scoring position. Billy Butler has driven in both runs, a single in the 3rd inning and a ground out in the 8th. Aviles doubled in the 2nd inning, his first double of the year. Hector Ambrose is originally from the Arizona Diamondbacks organization, and the Indians took him in the Rule 5 draft, so he needs to remain in the big leagues all year. And Mike Aviles has a 2-hit game. So Aviles at first base, and now Brian Pena is going to hit for Jason Kendall. So O'Brien with just his 9th at-bat this year, 0 for 8. And takes a strike from Ambrose. Frankie said last half inning that when Joakim Soria comes into a non-save situation, he has to kind of create a situation for himself. Well, Brian Pena can do the same thing because Trey Hillman has used him as a pinch hitter late in the game, so he can imagine in his mind that this is a one-run game.
Well, it's a little bit easier for a hitter than for a pitcher, I believe, to get ready for that one at bat because they're far and few between, so you're excited for the opportunity. So usually probably around the 5th inning, 6th inning, he probably goes back in the tunnel and start getting ready for this one at bat. So to him, he just wants to come off the bench and hit the ball hard and see where it goes. And that's like I say, when you're in the American League, you don't pinch hit every night like you do in the National League. So it's a little bit tougher in the American League to be a pinch hitter off the bench.
Jason Kendall was 0 for 3 tonight, and he had a 5-game hitting streak, so that's over. One away. Ambrose out of UCLA. The Diamondbacks drafted him in 06. And then the Indians, after he was not protected, taking him in the Rule 5. That's the same way the Royals got Joakim Soria from the San Diego Padres. So he must remain in the big leagues all year, or the Indians have to offer him back to Arizona. And this is a perfect opportunity for a Rule 5 pick. Fouled away by Willie Bloomquist, who's pinch hitting for Mitch Meyer. Not all Rule 5s pitch as well as Andrew Cisco did a few years ago, and Joakim Soria has. Most Rule 5 guys, managers try to protect and save them for situations like this where there isn't a lot of pressure.
Well, that's true, and they can go out and they can, like Amber's got a great arm, 95, 96 on his fastball. He can just kind of air it out and just get some butterflies out of the way and get a feel for the mound, get some game action, and get ready for the next time out.
DJ Carrasco was another Rule 5 guy who ended up playing a prominent role in 03 when the Royals nearly won the Central Division. And now Bloomquist is down on strike, so a couple of pinch hitters strike out. And now Chris Getz is going to get an at-bat and hit for Yuniesky Betancourt. Getz on the road trip was 4 out of 23. Driving in 3 runs. Also had a couple of stolen bases. Two balls, one strike. Tomorrow night, Kyle Davies will pitch for the Royals, and Fausto Carmona is off to a good start for the Indians at 3-1. Same time tomorrow, Hy-Vee Royals live at 6:30 with the first pitch at 7:10. 2-2 on Getz. And Ambrose running it up there in the mid to upper 90s.
One thing he's doing tonight, he's not trying to trick him because he's coming right after him with his fastball.
Right to Cabrera and a force at second. So the Royals begin the homestand with an 8-2 loss. And now the Cleveland Indians have won 2 games in a row. We'll be right back.